I'd like to start by asking you both the same question, which is, what's one of your earliest memories of one of the first restaurants you ever discovered personally, and how you discovered that restaurant?
Yeah, I'll start. I am from Michigan. So the first restaurant, it was more of a mom and pop bakery shop that offered catering. It was called Petty for Pastry. My mother had gotten remarried, and she was like, "Do you want to come with me to return the cake stand?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And when we had walked in, my mother, being my mother, was like, "Yeah, she likes to bake at home. She's really interested in cooking." And I think that, I don't know, Liv, what do you think? And I was like, "Yeah, I like to do that." And chef was like, "Okay, well, why don't you start coming every single Saturday and volunteering, and let's see if you really like it." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And long and behold, that's how I got into culinary school. I stayed at that same bakery all the way up until I graduated high school. And then when I went to culinary school, it was coming from Michigan, so I didn't know a lot about Michelin. I didn't know a lot about these fine dining restaurants. And it's where I discovered Restaurant Danielle. And that's where I got my first job. And so it's my full journey.
So the discovery came through a family connection almost.
It did, yeah. It started with family and it turned into education and long-lasting friends.
And Pablo, for you, first restaurant that you remember kind of discovering and how you discovered it?
For me, it was actually related to Danielle as well. I had just moved to London long time ago. My wife and I moved to London really young, and we were celebrating our anniversary within a month of having moved to London. And I mean, I didn't know any of the food critics. I wasn't in the space. And it was just word of mouth about this amazing restaurant that was at the Mandarin Oriental in London. And it was Café Boulout. And it was really special to me because it was pretty much the first time that, my wife and I had just moved into this new city and we were discovering like a really nice restaurant. Needless to say, I didn't know who Danielle was, right? And now looking back 20 years ago, I'm like, my God, Danielle Boulout, and I had dinner there. But at that point in time, there were no apps. You were printing directions on MapQuest, right? So it was a long time ago, and word of mouth was how we discovered that.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to get you to sort of think back to that. And also you guys as well, like have a think about, Nadal, when I was mentioning this question to him, was like, oh, I discovered my first restaurants on the adverts watching the football, the Serie A, and then I would say to my dad, like, hey, I've got this advert, like I wrote it down, you've got to take me to this restaurant. So I think it's this idea of understanding how things have changed a lot, and that's what I want to get into in this conversation. And I'm sure neither of you would argue that how we discover restaurants today has completely changed. What I'd be interested to hear from both of you, again, for a question for both, is what have we gained from the way that we discover restaurants in today's sort of technology space, and what have we lost, perhaps?
Yeah, I think right now, right in the age of digital media, social media, it's very easy to gain a lot of traction for first-time diners in your restaurant. A lot of first-time customers, you are speaking on your phone about wanting to eat Italian cuisine, and then all of a sudden your Instagram is filled with pasta and possible places to come. But I do think that that's a gain when it comes to something that we have lost. I don't know if we've lost anything. I think visibility is a really good thing when you talk about discovery. But I think it's more of a conversation of really focusing on how you can train and engage your restaurant's teams to be able to make that connection, the human connection when you walk into the space.
I think we've lost a little bit of simplicity in terms of like, there were 5 places that your parents like or your friends like, and you probably went to just those 5 places. There's a lot of noise today, for sure. Social media, AI, word of mouth, wherever you are, there's just so much noise for discovery. And for us, for example, at Resy, we take it very seriously to try to help every restaurant be discovered. And in a world where not every restaurant can have a marketing budget, not every restaurant can be an expert in social media, right? We take it very seriously to make it very easy for you to book if you know exactly where you want to go book, but also to have editorial content that can tell you about that hidden gem that you didn't know about, right? So just to cut through the noise. And I think technology can help you do that, right? How do you cut through the noise, through the data that you have, through how much you know about your customers to help every restaurant succeed?
And you said there about being fair and making it so every restaurant gets a chance. How do you do that? How do you make that balance?
So we want every restaurant to, again, to be as busy as they possibly can. And we think about our platform in two ways, which is if you know exactly where you want to go, I need to make that as easy as possible so that the restaurant can get that conversion right away. Very easy. You see that block, you book it, it's done. If you don't know where you want to go and you want to be inspired, right? We have a team of editorial experts that are writing 3,000 articles, 4,000 articles per year, highlighting every single restaurant. We also invest a lot in driving reservations and bookings through American Express. So we are owned by American Express, and we have a number of benefits in our card portfolio that encourage our diners to go out there and dine. And we cover a portion of that bill. On our Platinum card, for example, you get $400 a year if you spend at a Resy restaurant. And the restaurants don't have to do anything. They literally just have to be on Resy. And if you know that you're going to be spending $200, but $100 are covered by American Express, you're going to order an extra bottle of wine. You're going to order that extra appetizer. You're going to try a new restaurant. And so 98% of the restaurants on our platform are getting that benefit, are seeing that Resy credit being redeemed, because for us, it's about giving back to the entire restaurant community, not just a select few.
I think on the operational side, right, for Gracious, it's really important that we have multiple touch points for our guests, and Resy being, of course, one of them. But we also have a team of reservationists. So instead of just doing something completely AI-based, you can actually call our phone lines and speak to someone directly. If you don't want to speak to someone directly, you can email us. We have a team who is always on email. If that's not your jam either, you're able to DM us on Instagram. We can still have a conversation there as well. So I think it's accessibility to different types of communication is really important.
Why is it important for you to keep, because many businesses would say that's a cost that we don't need to maintain. So why is that important to you?
For us, it's really about that human connection piece. I think that you learn so much. There's so much discovery to have when you're having a conversation with someone, right? They could be telling you it's their birthday, but maybe what you don't know is that their parents are traveling all the way from another country to celebrate, and they haven't celebrated in years, right? And you're not going to be able to gather all of that information over maybe an AI phone call conversation. You need a human to be asking the questions about, well, how is your life right now? What's going on? And so I think that as we have a lot of AI capabilities at our disposal, it's really important to always have human connection remain at the forefront of every interaction.
That's nice to hear for someone who likes to, sorry, Pablo, pick up the phone for my Resys.
They're still writing notes on Resy, by the way, so it's fine.
I think there's probably both of you could give us some interesting angles, but like there's a lot of people in the audience, perhaps they're thinking of opening restaurants, they've just opened restaurants, they're running restaurants. How do you position yourself for the best success in terms of this visibility? Is it to be across multiple platforms? Is it to work directly with someone like you, Resy, and get advice from you? How much effort do you put into that, Olivia, in terms of like maximizing your exposure on these platforms for visibility?
Yeah, so I specifically for Gracious, I program Resy and the accessibility levels for all of our customers who are coming in. We analyze a lot. We have monthly meetings with all of our managers, so we know exactly who's coming in. And as an operator, I still go into service every single night in our restaurants. I think it's really important when you look at who's coming in and who maybe the demand is. I'll spend an entire shift at the front door and realize that, we were fully booked with reservations, but there was a high demand for walk-ins, right? And so I think that it's about being in the space if you're a programmer, but I also think it's about learning the platform. We meet with our Resy Success Manager often. We learn new things about the platform and what's changing. And so maybe there's a new algorithm that we can take a look at, do a deep dive on to program things a little bit differently. But I think it's important to have flexibility. It's, we don't withhold any information from our guests. We make it very visible on Resy on the platform, and when people call us exactly how to book, whether that time may vary on party size or not, we give them all the information up front, right? Because being honest creates trust, and that's what's going to bring people back into your spaces.
From a platform perspective, we think about it in two ways. I mentioned if you know that you want to go to code, I need to make that as simple as possible so that you can book that directly. But I also have a responsibility to make sure that I meet every diner where they are, wherever that discovery journey is. So we think a lot about our integrations in different social media channels, right? Just to make sure that you can book directly from Meta, Instagram, from Facebook. I'm thinking a lot about third-party demand channels like Google. Am I showing up in the right way? The inventory showing up in the right way because that's where you started your discovery journey. We are about to be announcing in the next week or so a new integration with a number of third-party platforms in the AI space because a lot of discovery is now happening on the AI space. You might ask ChatGPT, like, hey, what's the best Korean steakhouse? And they're going to tell you code. So I want to make sure that when that happens, my integration shows up in the right way. So we're going to be working through that in the next couple of weeks.
So what I would see a widget that would allow me to then book directly through an LLM, like an AI, or?
So the way that we are thinking about all of this is how do I deliver the best experience for the diner and the best experience for the restaurant? And so making sure that in whatever LLM we're thinking through and working through, that trusted source from Resy shows up in the right way so that you know that you're booking directly through code. And so we're going to be releasing a couple of these things in the next week.
How much work do you do internally to keep that fair? Because not everyone's very tech literate. Maybe you're a mom and pop, you've been open for 40 years, you don't know what TikTok is, you don't know what AI is, and you don't know what Resy is. How do you work to maintain like a balanced playing field for all restaurants? Because I think my concern is, as someone who loves restaurants, is the more tech literate restaurant going to rise to the top, and some of these gems, some of these mom and pop gems, going to be forgotten in this space of algorithms? And
that's why we take our responsibility to put every restaurant out there extremely seriously, right? But back to the point that pop and mom restaurant doesn't have the marketing knowledge or the marketing resources to be out there, and that is our job, right? So how do we show up in the right way in every single channel, whether that's on Google, on Maps, on our app, on the web, on LLMs, like making sure that every restaurant can be discovered. Then we double down on our expert editorial content. Another thing that we're seeing is in a world of so much noise, people are looking for that trusted advice. Like, how can I really trust that this restaurant is good? And so we have people on staff that live and breathe restaurants every single day. And we write 3,000, 4,000 articles per year, just highlighting that. And so really taking it seriously to champion every restaurant on top of driving more discovery through Amex and the different channels that we have with them.
And you guys are really big on the editorial side. No, I think it's probably, as someone who works in that world, I think it's probably what you do best in a way, from my perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, but we've been, our head of editorial used to be the head of the food section for the San Francisco Chronicle, for example. And all of our editorial team has been in restaurants writing forever. We have a James Beard Award winner winery writer. And so really going deep into the industry and showcasing the story of the restaurant, why you should go try it, what is this restaurateur trying to say, how do we tell those stories? That's editorial. We also do a lot of events. So we do over 250, close to 300 events per year. And those events are not just, it's a Resy event, come and have fun. It's really working closely with the restaurants to understand what story they're trying to tell so that we can help people discover them.
And that first question that I asked you both about that early memory of discovering a restaurant, and probably the one that people in the audience thought about, both kind of came down to word of mouth, through friends, through family. Is word of mouth dead? Is that gone? Or is that just changed? How do you guys see that right now?
I think for me personally, I'm sure for many people, we don't always have the capability and free time to go out to restaurants. And so when we do have that time, it's very special and we need to pick that strategically. And for me, I go on Resy all the time and I'm just looking and scrolling to see what they've updated and new perks that they have. But also I actually speak to all of my friends, like, where have you been recently? Where have you gone to eat? Like, what's going on? And so to answer your question directly, I don't think word of mouth is dead. I actually think it's one of the strongest ways to gain business from your restaurant. And that kind of circles back to human connection with your managers, right? And really training them to be on the floor and make that first impression with that guest. But I think, when I ask someone like, where have you been? I instantly get a text message like, oh, here's the direct link from Resy, or like, here's their Instagram page. So that's, I think, where social media plays a bigger role in that. But word of mouth is definitely not dead. I think it's very much strong.
I don't think word of mouth is dead at all. I think it still happens, and I even get word of mouth, whether it's from my team or from my partners. And our job is to leverage technology to embrace that and amplify it. So, for example, everybody at Resy has to write, at least on a quarterly basis, their experience at one of our partner restaurants. And we publish that. So you go to the Resy list where Resy has been recently. And it's all of us just writing about great restaurants that we come and try. And that is word of mouth, but we're leveraging technology to amplify that. We also have a feature on our app which is called the Resy hit list. And you can add your own list. And if I ask you, Liv, hey, Liv, what are your restaurants on your Resy? She can just text me that with a list of 20 restaurants, and I can follow that list. So word of mouth is still out there, and we're leveraging technology to amplify that and make it easier for everybody to consume it.
And speaking about leveraging technology, I've always wondered, because I'm the consumer's facing side, I book my restaurant through Resy. I don't see what happens on the back end. What sort of insights, what sort of data, what sort of tools are you providing and are you accessing through Resy to help make the job of restaurants easier, more effective? How does that work? I've always wondered what the back end looks like from a restaurant's perspective.
Yeah, I nerd out about this, you guys. This is something that gets me really excited. It is, it's true. Specifically, I think Resy allows you to have access to all of your data as an operator right on the platform on the back end. So you can go in at any point in time, any day, at any time, and see who are my tops, guests who have been into the restaurant, what is their visit count, what is the average time for a 2-top dining experience versus a 6-top, right? We know that that's different. It's never going to always be the same. And so I think that once you understand that data, and we're really lucky, it's our success manager from Resy, we've had worked with 2 really great people. Our last, Tyler, I actually worked with him in New York City at the Nomad. We had a restaurant job together. And so when I would call him and ask certain questions like, hey, this is what's actually happening on site, how do I change this data or how do I use this data to make decisions about how I want to program my grid? And we could have an open and honest conversation. I think when it comes to tools, you then can see, okay, who are my top regulars? Or maybe you could use another party to get in your point of sale system, right? Maybe you're working with Toast and it's already integrated. Maybe there's something, we work with Spot On. So we work with a company called Loyalist. So we take Loyalist and Spot On and we integrate everything together. So now I can see.
So these are like extra, sorry for people who don't know, and for me who has no idea, these are like add-ons to the platform. They're like third party.
Toast would be a point of sale system. So while Resy is your booking platform, for operators, you would have a point of sale system in the restaurant. And you would want those 2 things to connect, right? Because it's really important to know who your regulars are, but what are your regulars spending, right? Are they spending something, or is there something that they're ordering that maybe you never want to take off the menu? And so I think what Resy has done so well is once you have all that data right in front of you at your fingertips, you're then able to make executive decisions like, okay, I want to group all of my regulars together. I want to create a tag. Maybe it's, super regular, maybe it's regular. You can put people in different categories, and you want to give them access to primetime reservations. They don't have to call you. They will look on the Resy app. It will only be exclusive to them. These are all tools that you can use as an operator with data to be like, okay, here you go. You have access because we really enjoy you coming. Thank you for coming. There's multiple ways you can do that. I think that's one of my favorite ways is the exclusive booking channels, but you could also use that data when it comes to your chefs too and give them access. So maybe you have texting lines, maybe you have someone who's texting you directly. There's ways to shift things. And then Loyalist is a CRM platform, but it allows you to really get your point of sale system and Resy together to look at all of the data as one piece, not separate pieces.
Yeah, I think the point is, that's amazing. And I think what Liv has highlighted is back to the question of noise and discovery. There's so much data noise in general, like not only for discovery, but for operations and what's happening at your restaurant, who did well, who didn't do well, what sold, what didn't sell. How do you connect the data from your POS? How do you do in a particular table or what wine sold. And I think technology today, for a very long time, all the platforms were very siloed, and we are thinking, and many platforms are thinking this way, like you have to have an interconnected system, right? So the reservation platform needs to talk to the POS system, needs to talk to the CRM system, needs to talk to your loyalty platform, so that the restaurateur can not only be discovered easily, fine, we sold out the reservation side, but from an operations perspective, how do we make it easier for a restaurateur to run the restaurant on an everyday basis?
It sounds quite exhausting. Like almost like you would need a data analyst as well on your team. I see the value of it. How do you keep, because it's an inherently human thing, isn't it? The restaurant business. It's human to human contact. Probably one of the only businesses that's not threatened by AI because we want this human to human contact. How do you embrace all of that tech, all of that data, because it's an awful lot of data, and also present it and use it in a way that still maintains this human connection? Because that's the one thing I don't want to lose in restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as someone who had to learn how to analyze a lot of data, it's not easy to just look at something and know all the answers right away, right?
Would you be doing like a monthly collation of all this data and then sitting down and presenting it?
Yeah, so we do a couple of different things, and we do that within every single department. So we have, at Gracious, I have 2 reservation managers. We have weekly and monthly meetings where we take a look at the data and we analyze it and we just practice with one another. And then on the following week, we'll meet with our Resy Success Manager and we'll say like, okay, this is the data that we pulled. What are you seeing on your end? Are we coming up with the same things? Maybe we pulled the data incorrectly. Maybe we needed to change the time. Maybe we need to look at something. So I think it takes time and practice. It's not right away, but I think having trusted partners like Resy, when we have questions, or even asking your friends like, hey, I've done this, can you help me understand, how are you doing that? I think that's important. I go out to my friends who operate restaurants and I'm consistently asking them like, hey, what reports were you pulling last week? Like, this is what I pulled and we found that this is super exciting. And then that starts the conversation, right? As an operator and as someone who formerly worked in kitchens, I'm not a data and analytics specialist, right? I do rely on others to help, especially our Resy Success Manager. But when you have that, it's, you can learn and understand. It just takes time.
It's fascinating, like the amount of data you must have. And I guess as well, you are using AI, you are incorporating AI into the platform. What does Resy look like as it goes forward over the next 5 years, let's say, with that input of AI? How are those platforms changing? What are you trying to do with the platform,
It's
Pablo?
changing every day. Like, seriously, I'm spending 30-40% of my time just learning about AI and AI technology and what it can do. And you said something that is interesting, which is like, oh, we're a little bit shielded from the restaurant. I actually don't think so. I think every restaurant, every industry is going to be impacted one way or another. So, there's a couple of areas, right? So the discovery, right? So people, most likely 5 years from now, you're going to see a lot more people just going into an NLM and just saying, I need a reservation for 7 p.m. on Friday. These are my top 10 restaurants. Find it, book it, right?
Does it go even further? Do you not even tell them your top 10 restaurants?
Sometimes
already knows.
Yeah, you're seeing that. So people are building bots to say, I need a reservation on Friday at 7 p.m.
I just want to eat, yeah.
I just want to eat, and that bot might know where you've been the last 10 times, that you really like Italian, that if you're in New York, you don't go north of 14th Street, and so it's going to do it for you, and it's going to book it, right? And so, how do we show up with an LLM in the right way, right? For one, to make sure that every restaurant on our platform is discovered. That's one. But two, that our restaurants are also protected. Because the last thing that I want is an LLM to book 10 restaurants at the exact same time, and then asking the user, which one do you really want? And then 9 get a cancellation 2 hours before. So balancing that to protect the restaurant is really important. To your point on overwhelming type of data, it is overwhelming. And if you're running a restaurant 12, 13 hours a day, the last thing you want at 11 p.m. at night, 12 p.m. at night, or maybe at 7 in the morning is to go through 10 spreadsheets of what actually happened. And so we're thinking a lot about how do we make this easier for the restaurateur?
In a digestible way.
How do we tell them, their story of their night, right? Just ask, tell me the story of my night. And it's a paragraph. And it's like, you sold a lot of chicken, you ran out of wine, and your 3 top diners that were repeat diners came in yesterday at 7 p.m. So how do we leverage AI to, one, make it easier and better to be discovered through multiple platforms? And then two, how do we make the operations easier as well?
I think Pablo said something important when it comes to the spreadsheets, because the spreadsheets are a lot of noise in themselves, right? And I think that one thing Resy has done well, if you log on to your back end of Resy, if you're using that platform, it actually is translated all into graphs. So you can
Into what, sorry?
into graphs.
Okay.
So you can see everything and see on an easy reading level what that actually looks like. So you don't have to spend hours fine tuning a spreadsheet to go through. It's already all there for you.
The data side is fascinating, and I can see how easily it can report on, okay, this week, chicken's your big thing, keep chicken on for next week, but no one's buying the fish, drop the fish, and very snapshot. I wonder how smart it can get. You know, can it be like, hey, but in your area of New York right now, meringues are hot. Like, are you getting as far as like predicting trends and...
Yeah, you see hot neighborhoods, right? So which one you can share with restaurants, like how is this specific neighborhood doing? How are you doing versus all the Italian restaurants? How are you showing up on the discover list? Let me tell you what type of information you should put on your page so that when the LLM is looking for a reservation for an Italian restaurant, you're showing up at the top. So things like that. It's how do we help every single restaurant succeed? Because we have 15,000 restaurants on our platform, and not all of them have the time to actually spend the time to figure this out. So we try to figure that out for them so that they are discovered. And back to your point of being fair, the LLM is not treating anybody unfairly.
And I'm a bit of a purist as well, so I guess there's a bit of a like, how do you stop everyone chasing the data, the trends, the peaks, because then we spoke about this with Virgilio in the last chat, you get this like, it's already happening with social media, this homogenization across what happens in restaurants. So I guess it's more for you, because you guys have got quite a unique identity, a unique origin as a restaurant story. How do you take all this data in? How do you fight to be good in discovery, make sure that you're top of the feed here, here, and here, listen to all this data, but also maintain a personality, I guess, a uniqueness?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I get excited about data because I get to look at it all the time.
I can tell. Give me the graphs.
Yes, the graphs, the programming. But really, we don't spend hours in meetings talking about this. We actually spend hours in meetings with our teams at every single site. We talk about that human connection piece. And when we hire for our managers, we're not necessarily hiring people who have big Rolodexes. We're looking for people who match our core values, which one of them is joy above all else. And when we feel that we have that in one of our team members, we naturally give them the tools to connect with guests on site. And so we actually have them, every single one of our coat managers, yes, you're grilling at the table, but you're actually stopping at that table 3 to 4 times in a given night in your given section. And the reason is not to make sure the meat's not burning, right? I mean, yes, that happens. But the reason is actually to make that connection, ask someone for their business card so our management team can actually follow up with them so that we can, it's not just a passing of a paper that then gets lost somewhere. It's like, oh my gosh, we would love to welcome you back. Like, can I have your card or can I have your information? I'll make sure that I email you. And with technology, we can help amplify that as well. So we create specific tags for all of our managers. So it could say our service manager at Coat Miami, his name is Daniel. Daniel has a great interaction with the guest. He comes up to our host stand and he's like, hey, can you make sure that they're alerted, alert Daniel is on their profile. So every single time they come in, you guys give me a soigné or a chit. But really what he could also do is say, hey, Liv, I want you to pull every single person that I've made sure I wanted to be alert of, and I just want to look at their trends, right? Or I just want to know when they're coming in. And so I think that it's really important to, yes, know and understand the data, but really spend time with your local teams because they're the ones making the first impressions, which again are filling the seats in your restaurant.
Humanize the data in a way.
Yes, humanize it. We're all human, right? And so I think that's for us, that's the forefront of everything.
I have a couple more questions I'd like to ask, but this has been, up until now, quite a lively crowd. So I think let's go to the Q&A section, and then we'll come back to some other questions at the end. We'll start on the end, and then we'll go in.
For Pablo, Ryan has been talking a lot about how do you bring the tools that you guys provide to restaurants that don't have a data analyst inside or they don't have all the people to be in charge of analyzing this data. But I want to ask if you guys have considered opportunities in restaurants that are not sit-down restaurants or more fast casual restaurants, and what are those opportunities and what tools do you have for restaurants like that?
Yeah. So, we want every restaurant on our platform. So Resy is built to grow with your restaurant. So we have 4 different levels of what the product is. So you have the basic level, which is just table management, or it can be just a wait list type of feature, right? And then you go up in the different packages depending on what your operations actually need. So if you're a restaurant, and I was talking to an amazing restaurant here today that they don't take reservations, but they have a very long wait list, as an example. So we provide those tools. We can provide the analytics of how the wait list is doing. You are part of the Resy Credit Network so that diners can discover your restaurant, and we can cover some part of that bill with American Express card, blah, 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 blah. But the way that we have built the platform is that it comes in different flavors depending on the operational needs of your restaurant.
Let's go in. There's a...
Two-part question, and this is mostly for Pablo. How does editorial compete with social media influencers days? And also, how does editorial establish trust with their readers besides just the readers looking up the bios and seeing that they were James Beard Award winners, former editors-in-chief, et cetera, et cetera?
I don't know if it competes with social media. I think social media can amplify editorial if you do it right. The way that we really think about editorial, and I was talking to the team earlier today, is like it's really independent. We really try to run editorial in the same way that a news organization runs a news business versus an advertising business. So our editors are really in control of which restaurants they're going to write about, what they're going to say about it. And if you notice our editorial content, it's never about bringing down a restaurant. I'm not critiquing the food, and I'm not really there to say the chicken was dry, right? I'm here to really understand what the chef is trying to do and help them tell the story. What's their origin story? Why is this dish special to them? Why was it so difficult, so easy to build this place, or not? What are they trying to do, or what type of history they want to make within their own space? And so our editorial team is not there to be critics, and I think this is what makes them trustworthy. Like, I'm not there to showcase that this chicken is better than the other one. I'm just really here to tell a story about that specific dish or a specific restaurant.
And I guess the data will let them know if the chicken's dry, no? No sales, chicken, last month.
Totally.
Problem, chicken. Do we have more questions in the crowd? This lady here, and we'll come to you, Danny. You've asked a question on every single round, like you're best in class.
Hi. Since we're talking about discovery, so I'd like to get your perspective specifically for Miami, like how Miami Spice helps restaurants get discovered throughout that time, and how we keep those same patrons coming back, where sometimes they could be from like a different, I'm going to say a different tax bracket. That's why we have it in the first place. So talk to me a little bit about how you guys capture those patrons to come back after Miami Spice.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a great question. I think, for Coat, we get really excited when Miami Spice comes in. Yes, it's a different price range, to your point, right? That changes for the consumer and the customer, as well for the business. But it's an opportunity to identify with your maybe soon-to-be regulars. People who come in Miami Spice are mainly a lot of tourism that people are coming in, and so you can welcome them back at another time. But like also, they're really locals of the place, right? They've been waiting to try your restaurant. They finally can get a reservation. They're excited to come in. I think again, it goes back to training your team to make sure that standards are still the same. But if you're a restaurant that is wondering, should I partake in Miami Spice? I feel like it doesn't really fit our brand. It's not our culture. I would really encourage you to do it. I can't tell you how many regulars we have built out of Miami Spice from our Coat Miami location, from people just coming in and really wanting to do that $35 menu, who now come back 9 p.m. routinely, monthly, for a 9 p.m. reservation, just so they can come in and see the staff. And
just quickly, for anyone who's not from Miami in the room that doesn't know what that is, can you just quickly explain?
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone's from New York, it's like it's a prefixed meal. You're able to come in and get three courses. There's two different price brackets. Typically, everyone stays within the $35 range, but it's more accessible, right? It's a prefixed menu that restaurants can partake in, and it happens over the course of 2 months. This year, it's actually expanding to 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, which is going to be exciting.
Nice idea.
I mean, just to everything that Liv said is correct. And I think what has made them successful is that they treat every customer, irrespectively if they came as a Miami Spice customer or a non-Miami Spice customer. You're gonna get the exact same level of hospitality. You're gonna wow that customer. You're gonna get the exact same level of support from a marketing perspective, that touch at the table, the whole thing. And so, you're making a bet into that diner that is gonna come back. And most of the time, a lot of the time, they do. So my encouragement is like, if you're gonna participate, just go all in. Deliver a great experience so you can create that hospitality feeling in them so that they want to come back.
Danny, come on.
So the question I'm about to make comes from the fact that I work for a cruise line now, and I just wanted to ask, have you guys ever been approached by a cruise line to handle their booking reservations at their restaurants?
Not during my tenure that I'm aware of, but if you have a contact, let me know. I'm here to take business, man. So
I'll
let's
make
go.
note of that.
Let's go. Resy credit overseas. Love it.
Resy on the seas, yeah. Resy on
Resy
the
on
water.
seas.
That sounds fun.
Nautical Resy. There was one more, and we've got time for one more, and then I'll ask the last one. And
He wants to finish by 3 p.m. because Liverpool is playing at 3, so he's really watching the clock.
Pablo, you mentioned
literally
that.
before we came on was like, we have to be done by 3 p.m. So if you're going to throw me under the bus, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. We're both crazy Liverpool fans. Stupidly. I don't know why we do it to ourselves, but yeah.
That's good.
Hi, Pablo. You mentioned that you guys do about 200 to 300 events per year to support your restaurants. How do you go about selecting which restaurants you're going to support?
Yeah, it's a really good question. First of all, we talk to the restaurant. We want to understand what is it that they're trying to achieve. If it's just an event where we're just going to provide a ticketing platform, sure, we enable that, but we will probably put the whole production around it. We partner with events that are really aligned with our brand, that are going to help a restaurant be discovered, that are going to help a restaurant tell a story. Obviously, we have a partnership with American Express, so is there interest from our card members? Is there demand there? But most of the time, it's really about, can we successfully help that restaurant achieve what they want to achieve? We don't do events for our sake, and I really, really mean it, and my events team is here. We do events because they're important for our restaurants. They have a story to tell. They have a collaboration that they've been dying to do. There was one last year that was called the Resy Dream Team Dinners. And it was about all these people that really were dying to collaborate with some of their idols. And in Miami, we had Tam collaborating with Kwame in New York. And when you went to that space and you saw Tam's happiness in working with an idol of his, that actually expands into the room. It expands the hospitality to the diner. It just creates a very special moment. And so we always look for that. Is this a special enough event that we can help this restaurant amplify and not just be a ticketed platform?
Thank you.
Thank you. And we started this by speaking about restaurants and your own memories of restaurants. So let's end it on the kind of the same note. And I'm very interested in, what's the one restaurant you think should still be discovered the old way? Slowly, without screens, like that one place that you would encourage people to go without knowing anything and just experience the restaurant?
I don't think any restaurant should be discovered just in the old way.
You have to say that.
Yeah, I have no, but I mean it because today, again, there's so much noise, man. If you're just relying on word of mouth, it's gonna be really hard. But I do think that people need to get away from just the top 10.
100%.
I really, really mean that. Like, what is your next neighborhood gem, right? I live here in Miami, right? And if I only went to dinner in Wynwood or in Little River or in South Beach, right, I wouldn't discover Tina at the Gables, right? Like, what's the neighborhood restaurant that you haven't been to? Just go out and try it, right? You support your local restaurant. So I think we live in a society where a lot of people just want to have that, that selfie in a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and I love those, and I want every single restaurant to be absolutely full, amazing. But I guarantee you that there's a neighborhood gem in your in your neighborhood that you haven't tried that is going to be just as good and it's going to provide a great hospitality.
I agree with that. Whether you're using the Resy app or I actually, on my phone, I pull up Google every once in a while and I will just search in a specific area.
Like a map, you look at the map?
Like I look at the map, like I'm literally pulling out my map and I just type the word restaurants and I see what comes up. Because I travel back and forth between Miami, New York, and Vegas a lot. And that's always changing, right? And there's always a new neighborhood spot that's coming up. And so I agree to not always look at the top 10. I think you should pull up your map, type in the word restaurants, look around, see what's there, and then just stop by. I also think word of mouth is really important. Ask your friends where they've been, ask your colleagues where they have been, and then go get a reservation or just walk in. I think you get to learn a lot about a restaurant when you try to walk in somewhere. And so, right? Right? And so that's really important. It's a good first impression and indication, but pull up your map. That's what I do. I literally pull up my map and I type the word restaurants.
We have a map on Resy, so you can also do that.
I know. But it's great to do it both ways, right? It's cool to do it on the Resy app, and then if you're an American Express card member, you get like access to specific times that no one might have. So, but yeah, I Google it.
And that beep was linked
That
to
was the kickoff for the...
That was the whistle going, so... Can we say thanks to our 2 amazing panelists?
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.